Hi guys, this is Vishal here from Trapcode. So in this video, we will understand how to build multilingual web apps in Trapcode. So multilingual web apps are like applications on which the UI is in different languages. Let's say you have people from English speaking, you have people from German speaking demography, maybe Spanish and all those things, right? So you want to build an application where users should be able to switch language so they can see the content in their own language or the language which they prefer. So let's see how that can be done. So I have a simple application which has a page. By default, this is English. So if I go and preview, I can see the English version. Okay. Now let's say I want to build a capability to user to be able to switch a language. So let's say maybe they want to see this in German or maybe in Spanish, a button to switch, or maybe a drop down like it happens in a sort of web application. So let's see how that can be done. So as of now, you see the content is coming from a heading. It is all static text, and that's all. Okay, now let's make it multilingual. So to do that, you go to the settings and go to app settings. Let's go to advanced and go to localization. So localization is something which we call for multilingual. By default, English is the language which is enabled, but you can enable as many languages as you want. So let's say I'll manage language. So by default, English is enabled. So let's say I want to add German. So I'll say German, and I'll say add language, and let's add one more. Let's say Spanish. Okay, that's all, add language. So now 3 languages are enabled by default. You can always delete languages and add more. By default, we support 3 languages, but you can have any number of languages. Okay, so this is fine. So I just close this. Now it is showing me 3 languages. Okay, so now the next part is to add key. So key are basically unique string which we will refer, and we will have different values on the basis of language. So I'll show you how we use that. For now, let's just create a key. So key name, let's say landing page title. You can give whatever name you want to give to key, and let's say title is my English landing page. Okay, so I've added a key. Let's add one more key. Let's say landing page description. So it's in my English landing page description. Okay, and add. So you can add as many keys as you want. Now we have added a key: language title, language page description. By default, you see in all the languages the text is same. So now let's change the text in different languages. So English I'll leave as it is, but for German let's just translate. So I'll open Google Translate. I'll say my English landing page, and let's change it to my German landing page. Let's say in German version we want to show like this. Okay, so this is it. So I come back here, I'll edit this. For the German, I'm just editing it and making it the German version. Okay, which is fine. Same thing for description. I'll just close this. I'll go and translate my German landing page description, something like this. I just copy, edit it, change the value, update. Okay, now let's go and change for Spanish. Same thing. Let's say English to Spanish. So here we are not doing auto translation. Okay, we are basically asking user to add the converted values, right? The translated values. So we're not doing translation on the fly. Okay, so I'll go back. This is the Spanish version. Let's add for description also. Something like this, right? So I'll just update it. So now we have 3 keys, which is landing page title and description, but each has its own description or own text on the basis of which language it is. Now let's go back to our home page, like where we had that text in English, and we'll see how to change it. So now I'll go to my heading component and go to settings. Okay, now here you see get content. So this is something which you get in heading, in text, in paragraph, most of the component which comes from text, right? So I'll say get content and I'll say get value from localization. So this is what we have to choose. Once you choose this, you will see all the keys which you will create there, right? So as of now, we have just created 2 keys. So I'm just seeing this landing page title, landing page description. So I'll just choose this. So this was a header element. This is a text or a paragraph. So same thing, get value from localization and say landing page description, right? So this is what we have done. Now let's go and preview. So here you see, now it is showing me the key because this is dynamic data which will come from the database or from the localization settings, right? As of now, it is only showing you the key. So I'll just click preview. It will show me default English version because English is the default language, but you can always change it. Okay, now let's publish and see how this looks like in published version, because I think in preview you saw that first it has shown you that key and then the actual value, but it should not be the case in published version. So I published it. Now let's say just view. So by default it will show you the English version. So here see the English data is coming. Now let's implement the switch language functionality. So what I'll do, maybe I'll just drop couple of buttons and then enable switch, and then we will add a drop down here. Okay, so first let's do it with button. Before doing it with button, we will need to create events. So basically when the button gets clicked or when the element person selects on the drop down, it should tell that okay, which language to set. So for that we'll go and create an event. So I'll say add event. So it is very simple event. You will just switch language. Okay, let's say switch to English version like this. Create. In the navigation, go to this setting, switch language. Can you see switch language? Just switch and then choose the language which you want to switch on the like when this event gets called. So I'll say English, which is fine. That's all. We don't need anything else. Let's create one more event. So I'll go to event and let's say switch to German, which is fine. Same thing, we'll go create an event. In the event action will be in the navigation switch language. This time we'll say switch to German. Okay, and let's add one more event. Switch to Spanish. Create. Same thing, in the navigation switch language and switch to Spanish. That's all, right? So we have created 3 events. Switch to English, switch to German, switch to Spanish. Now you can basically call these events from anywhere on the UI. As soon as you call the event, it will change the language. Okay, so let's see how that works. So first we'll do it from the button. So we'll go to the components, drop a section. Let's see a 3-column layout. So I'll add 3 buttons here, and in the component either I can drop a link or I can drop a button. So let's just drop a link. Okay, so basically you need a component on which you can bind event. So in the button, I'll say workflow event switch to English, and I'll say English. Okay, and let's say button to be warning. Okay, let's duplicate this. Let's say German. Okay, I go to the settings. In the event, I'll say switch to German, which is fine. Let's add one more button or a link. Okay, in the workflow, I'll say switch to Spanish and just name this Spanish. Okay, I'll remove these classes. These classes are completely optional. I'm just adding them just to show you different colors of the button, but it has nothing to do with this particular functionality. So this is fine. Now let's go and preview. So if I switch language, click the button, it should change the language. Okay, by default this is English, so let's switch to German. I'll say German. So now it is bringing the German text. I'll say Spanish text, but you are seeing some lag, right? So let's just check in the published version. For that I'll just publish. So I'll click the link. So now we are on landing page. By default English is coming. I'll say German. So it reloads the page. German is coming. Spanish is coming, right? So basically you have called the event on the click of the button. So I come back to English is coming. If you go and add more properties in localization, you can just use them wherever you want and it will bring the language. So now let's build a drop down menu here so that people can switch language from the drop down menu. For that I'll go to my components, go to nav bar and sub menu. So this is what we use for drop down menus. Okay, so I'll just drop it here and let's manage it through layer manager so that it comes where it's needed. So let's say let me put it as the last option. Sorry, I put it outside in the navbar container. Okay, sub menu should be like this, or maybe the last option. Okay, so here it is. I'll say English. Second, I'll say German. Third is Spanish. And here I'll say change language. In fact, this change language you can also bring from the key so that when people are in German version or the Spanish version, they will see this text in that particular language. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll go to the link box setting, bind the event. In the English, I'll say switch to English version, which is fine. In the German, I'll bind the event, switch to German, which is fine. In Spanish, in the link box, I'll bind the event, switch to Spanish. Okay. Let's remove these buttons. Okay. So now I've added a drop down to switch language. So let's preview again. So now we'll see a drop down change language: English, Spanish, German. So I'll say German. This should change to German. Okay, it's German. So now let's publish and see it in working. So I'll publish. Changes are published. So let's just open the application. So now by default is English. That's how it is. I'll just change it to German. So it's German. I'll change this to Spanish. This is Spanish. And you navigate to any page, it will remain same until someone changes the language explicitly. Okay. So if you navigate to any other page, it will be in that particular language. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you again in the next video. Bye bye.